Morning.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
All right.
Hey, Holly,
Yes, ma'am.
would you, just because there's so many faces, can you do a roll call just to make sure before you start the meeting, make sure I got everybody, if you would, please?
A roll call from our participants.
No, just for the council, because I'm not seeing everybody, but I don't know I got it full screen, but if you.
Our whole council is here, Karen, except
Gotcha.
for Jim Curtis, who had scheduled an out of town trip before all this started.
Okay, great.
So everybody else is here.
Okay, thank you.
I'm still letting people in, so we're having very good participation here. So
That's great.
yeah.
Yes, and you all started the meeting so early. I'm still eating breakfast.
Nice to be retired, isn't it?
Yes, it is. I do enjoy it.
Yeah. It's starting to feel like, come here, look at this. This is the first message you got signed out. You've been signed out because you're currently signed in on another device.
I say, okay.
But then that came up. Anyway.
Keep the feedback down. I'm going to mute everyone, but if anybody has anything they want to say, certainly unmute yourselves. But when you start getting this many people, feedback can become an issue. But okay.
We have another meeting at 10, is that correct?
That is correct. If this meeting goes long, which it may very well be, if anybody wants to participate in the 10 o'clock, hang tight, just go ahead and be on standby, logged in, and of course you will be allowed, you'll be accepted before we get started. Madam Mayor, it looks like, well, we still have more people coming in, but
Mayor and Karen are muted. And Tony's muted, Dan, Bill.
you know, everybody, I intentionally muted everybody. There was some feedback going on, but
Okay.
if you can hear me, certainly unmute yourself if you have a question or comment. But when you start getting 20, 25 people on here, the feedback starts becoming a problem. So. Looks like I don't see anybody else looking to come in, Madam Mayor. But if
All
they
right.
do, I will certainly let them join.
Thank you, Jason, and welcome everybody. And Jason, I'll let you take over.
Good morning, everyone. This is the third public hearing for the proposed 2022 General Fund, Enterprise Fund, Capital Purchases, Marketing Fund. And I'm going to, just as I did in the first two meetings, somebody else in here, I'm going to give a quick overview of the general fund budget, and then I've been asked to answer a couple of 3 questions from the previous public hearing. And then once I do that, I will stop talking and let the public hearing begin. But This budget proposed for the general fund is anticipated in terms of revenue is $1,380,459. That is an increase over last year's budget by $259,000. But it is diversified in that 80,000 is anticipated in sale of assets, 15,000 increase in fines, 21,000 increase hotel motel, about between 50 to 70,000 in anticipated grants. And then although the millage rate will stay the same or proposed at 15.6080 mills, with the net increase, the tax digest from where the county did a reassessment would result in an additional $88,000. And of those funds, approximately 90,000 is earmarked for road maintenance for next year. As far as expenditures, admin, city hall, 20% or 280,000. Buildings and grounds would be 11% or $147,800. Police would be 29% or $399,996. Roads is 27% or $374,150. And then the remaining $80,000 is miscellaneous, and that covers everything from Bob Powers code enforcement to mayor and council, courts, the court judge, cultural events, etc. Real quick, there was 3 questions in the last public hearing that I wanted to answer. The first question involved the sign there across from Winding Ridge. From the research and talking with Mark Wanamaker, our contractor, the landscaping is done by Mark Wanamaker. That is funded by the club. He does cut that area around the sign, but he does that in kind since his guys are right there cutting Winding Ridge, which is part of the city. So he does cut that, but the city does not pay him to do that. The other question was involving the budget creation policy. I want to say that when I first began the policy process, I was not aware of the policy. However, I did follow best management practices as far as budgeting and administration. And when I looked at that policy, it aligned with those best management practices. So to the best of my ability, I covered that. We began the budget process as early as June of this year. I referenced that in my city manager report as early as 15th of June. And I've referenced that in every city manager report since then. And I've made myself available. And really until recently, we've only had questions about the budget. The budget did begin several months ago. And then the final question, and I'm not 100% sure, but what I gleaned from it was involved. The question was $25,000 removed from the police department budget. Just want to state that the city manager position does not have the authority to do interfund moves from one department to another or take money from one department to another, nor does this position have the authority to do any budget amendments. So there was no money moved from the police department budget. So hopefully I answered those 3 questions, and then I'm going to stop now and let anybody ask questions. And unmute yourself if you'd like to speak, please. You can hit this. You should be able to hit the space bar if you're on a keyboard. That should unmute you. If somebody has problems, if you'll just kind of wave your hand, if I can see you, I will. Okay. I see Robert Walton. So give me 1 second. All right.
That's Ken Walton.
Okay. Let's see.
Okay, I think I'm unmuted now.
You are.
Okay, I just wanted to very briefly tell the members of council, mayor and council, and as well the general public is that my wife and I am on her computer. That's my name is Ken Walton. Hers is Roberta Walton. That we are in support of the construction of an additional pickleball court. We play pickleball 3 days a week on these facilities. We frequently have more than 20 people playing, and with 8 limited on the courts, that means sometimes people are waiting 20 to 30 minutes to play a game. We have done things to reduce the amount of time that is played. We cut the score from 11 to 9, and we eliminated the you must win by 2 requirement, which sometimes extends games. But this is outside of the walking path. This is the only physical activity amenity that the city offers. And I think you should promote it. Pickleball is the fastest growing sport in America. And I think this would be a major asset for the city, and the third court would be utilized heavily. And that's my comments. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ken.
Yes, Holly.
Yes, Grace, go ahead.
Yeah, I would just, as a general comment, I like the budget. I think, you've appropriated enough amounts over. We have a rescue dog we are babysitting, and she's gone crazy. But at the last meeting, I was really kind of concerned with so much of the negativity that came out. And I think since you've been on and this new city council, well, not real new, but the feeling at Sky Valley I feel has gotten better. The place looks so much better now with the landscaping that's being done. And I think you've done so many positive things for the city that I just want to be a voice for all of us that really enjoy living at Sky Valley because of the work and effort that you all have done.
Thank you, Grace.
And sorry about that dog.
Is there anybody else that wishes to make a comment or ask a question?
Mr.
you, Ms. Mayor.
Mr.
This is David
Ponkowski,
Carr.
let's see.
Yeah,
I'm gonna see. Trying to, okay, you're
Okay,
unmuted now, sir.
City Manager Streetman, would you be specific as to whether or not the city employees are receiving wage increases this year? And if so, what the amounts are?
Yes, sir. The proposed budget does include a 5% COLA for all employees, trying to align and be competitive. As you all are very aware, we are in a very tight labor market right now. We have lost one employee due to higher wages someplace else. We're in the process of losing another employee for the same reason. So to be competitive, the budget does show a proposed 5% COLA for all employees. And COLA, of course, cost of living allowance.
Right. Okay, and then that starts with the city manager right down to the latest hire across the board?
That would be correct. Yes, sir. That would
Okay.
begin January 1st of the new budget year.
Okay. Relative to the roads, I believe there's a pretty good increase in health insurance. Can you, if I'm reading that right, Mr. Streetman, can you explain that health insurance issue as far as the roads are concerned?
Yes, sir. The city will reimburse employees up to $700 per month. Some employees are that much, some are not, but we still have to budget based on what the maximum may be. So with that being said, we do have some departments that we have to anticipate that worst case or best case, or however you want to say it, that if every employee were reimbursed the full $700 a month, you need to allocate $8,400 a year for each employee. So that's where that money comes from. Or even though it may not be spent, you still have to allocate for that in case somebody leaves and a new person comes on and their insurance is that much or higher. They will be
Okay.
reimbursed up to that amount.
Okay, so it's not necessary, it's more like a, let's plan ahead and be proactive as opposed to getting stuck.
Exactly, yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. I do have a contrary view of the pickleball court than was stated by Mr. Walton. I believe, and Mr. Streetman, you might be able to clear this up, that the timeshares has 2 pickleball courts. In fact, I saw some people playing on it the other day. And that for most of the summer months, nobody's been on that. Is my understanding correct that the timeshares has 2 current pickleball courts?
I know they have courts. I'm not sure exactly what percentage is pickleball, what percent is tennis courts being private property, and I'm really not aware of how people are allowed to use that, being that it's private property. But the city pickleball courts are open to the public, first come, first serve. So again, I don't know if I can answer that question being private property.
Mr. Streetman, can I answer that question? And this is David Carr. I formerly lived at 455 Driver Lane, a former member of the city council. So I want to thank y'all for inviting me here today to talk about pickleball issues for the city council and to consider while you're producing your budget. As to Mr. Tao's question, those pickleball courts on the timeshares are laying on the ground, and I've been here the last 2 summers and I've never seen anybody set the pickleball. They are removable pickleball courts, and I've never seen anybody move them, or nor have I seen anybody play on them. Everybody plays on the city's pickleball courts because we have probably the best pickleball courts in the North Georgia area. But if I could just continue, Mr. Streetman, pickleball is our story, as Ken was saying, and I say Ken's got his shirt on there, so you know where we're going when we finish the meeting today. It's what we love, and we play it at least 3 times a week. But looking back when the year started, we had 2 issues that were a problem for our large group, and that we didn't have any place to store a first aid kit, nor did we have any place to store our pickleballs for the players to pick up and take that to the courts and play. And I met with the city manager, and he was very kind to me, and he said he was going to think about this problem and talk to the mayor. And he contacted me a few days later and said that we'd be able to use one of the bathrooms to put our first aid kit in and to put our pickleballs in. He said he didn't think that 6 pickleballs and 1 first aid kit would hurt that hurt that bathroom at all, and it hasn't. It has really worked out nicely in that anybody that is in our group can go to the bathroom and get the pickleballs, or if there's an injury, they go get the first aid kit. And first aid kit's been used by other people in the parks and in the pavilion. Last summer, we had 53 members in our group, and we added players every week, and we've continued to add players every week this year. And we've reached a point we're around the 100 player mark, and with our plans for next year, we may be to the 125 to 130. I'm sure we're going to be around 125 to 130 player mark, just because of the type and the great facilities we have here in Sky Valley. Not just the pickleball, but just the fact it's Sky Valley. I was at this is a different story, but I was at the Braves game Saturday night, and I had on my Sky Valley hat, and I was sitting on the end of the row, and this guy walks by, stops, and taps me on the shoulder and says, that's my favorite place. And I said, well, that's mine also. But we wear our pickleball hats and our shirts and our hats all the time. But we now have all these players. Now, how are we providing playing time for these players? Ken touched on this. We reduced the length of time you can play in a game from 11 to 9, and you only win by 1 point. Or in a regular game, you played 11 and you have to win by 2, and those games can be extremely long. The nine point games are quick, and we've been able to probably increase the playing time for our members by 25%. They've probably been able to go from 3 games to 4 games, and maybe as high as 5 games. But saying that, we've lost a lot of players every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday as they drive by and they see the places covered up with 25 or 30 players and no place to park. And the next thing I know, me and Ken and some of the other guys, we get our friends say, you know, I wanted to play Tuesday, but I drove by and there was no place to park, and it looked like y'all had about 30 players out there. And having 30 players and only 8 playing at a time, as Ken says, you may be looking at a 30-minute wait. But we've been fortunate. The Clayton Tribune has a lot of interest in Sky Valley and in our pickleball tournaments and pickleball playing here. And we're blessed that the editor of the Times is now a member of our Sky Valley pickleball group. And he recently moved to Sky Valley. And I'm not going to say that he moved to Sky Valley because of pickleball, but I'm not too sure that that wasn't the reason. Because he's an excellent pickleball player, and he shows up on Saturday and does a nice job. And he covers our tournaments, and we've had 2 nice write-ups in the paper, and I'm sure he's going to continue to cover. He likes what he's seen here. We welcome everybody into our group as if they were our next door neighbors. No one is ever denied to play. We're in the process of forming a pickleball club and open playing so that every person in Sky Valley who's a resident or a visitor can play pickleball with the pickleball group. And this will grow our group when you open it up to, and everybody knows it's open. Everybody in Sky Valley knows it's open to them. And you know, that's the message we have to get out, and we will get it out. But we're gonna go to open play probably next year so that everybody gets to play, whether you're a member of our group or just a visitor or a good visitor or a resident. Our club will always be dedicated to that type of policy.
Yeah. Thank you, David. That was wonderful input. And I'm going to is there anybody else who wants to speak on behalf of the pickleball court issue? Thank you, David.
Thank you, ma'am.
If nobody's going to speak on the pickleball end of things, I want to go to marketing. A couple of years ago, the president of the club invited me and Mayor McNair to a meeting to discuss, along with the timeshares and club membership, club board, hiring Doug Hollingsworth to promote the club with the idea that the city would benefit from that. There was a period where there was no more contact from the club president, and I initiated a meeting with him and the timeshare and Councilor Wheeler. And at that meeting, the club president advised us that he had decided to contract with Doug Hollingsworth and did not notify members of the city council. Now we find out, once this marketing committee starts up, that the city is paying for $750 a month to market the club under the guise that we're likely to get people interested in moving into Sky Valley, which is a reasonable assumption. But we're promoting golf. I'm not sure I get why taxpayers, especially since not everybody golfs, nor does everybody play pickleball, should be supporting something that's a private organization. And as I stated last week, the initial survey relative to amenities in Sky Valley never had pickleball. And yet the administration put pickleball in. Anyway. So anyway, going back to Doug Hollingsworth, there's money that's allocated to continue paying him to promote golf. There is money allocated for a photographer.
Al, can I stop you here? And I hear your concerns. We have a marketing meeting this Thursday at 10 o'clock, and I would love for you to come and discuss that then. We have not decided, the council has not approved any payments for the marketing committee, and we won't do that until January when the marketing committee starts the new year. So can I ask you to bring up that at the marketing meeting Thursday?
This is a budget hearing, and I am
It
talking
is.
about budget.
But we have not put Doug Hollingsworth in our budget.
And Al, this is Bruce Turner. In 2015, I think ish is when there was a survey, and you're correct, there was nothing in there referencing pickleball. But in the past 6 years, pickleball has exploded. So in 2015, pickleball wasn't on anybody's radar, but we have reacted to a growing amenity that is nothing but a win for Sky Valley. That's all I had.
Well, I understand that, Mr. Turner. I understand that completely, and I'm not opposed to pickleball. That's not where I'm coming from. I'm coming from the amount of money that we have coming in as revenue from Sky Valley and what it's being spent on. And Doug Hollingsworth is probably the best marketing person that we've got right now, and he markets himself. We're paid $6,000 to his photographer to take pictures of Sky Valley during the 4 seasons. And there is money allocated for that photographer to spend, to take more pictures. I don't know, are the seasons going to be different next year? I don't think so, Mr. Turner.
Is it fair to say that pickleball's is it fair to say pickleball's no longer an issue to you, Al?
No, pickleball is an issue. I understand why people like it. It's still an issue, but I understand that people like the idea of being able to go out and play pickleball.
So it's not an issue. Is that correct?
It's a budget issue, Mr. Turner. Now, with the
Al, I'm sorry to interrupt you again. We have not decided, we have not allocated any funds in this upcoming budget for Mr. Hollingsworth or for a photographer. That will come through the marketing committee recommendations for 2022. So that is not in this current budget coming up. So can we move on to other issues?
Are you trying to cut me off, Mr. Mayor?
No, just trying to give you a chance to say to talk about all the issues you want to talk about.
Okay. The Kubota. Well, actually, let's not talk to the Kubota yet. Let's talk to these issues with Mr. Hollingsworth, the photographer, the pickleball court, things along those lines. You haven't voted on them yet. The council hasn't. That's a stated fact, right?
Correct. That will not come until we have recommendations from the marketing committee recommends what they would like their budget to be spent on.
But you're allocating funds as if we're going to be voting on them. That's what it appears like to me.
We are allocating funds for marketing issues in Sky Valley, along with the club and the POA, and hopefully the timeshares will all participating in a unified marketing campaign for Sky Valley.
What I'm trying to do, Mayor Style,
Mhm.
is to identify areas that could possibly be used for other more important things. I don't think that one of the things that came up years ago when I was on the council was the clearing out right-of-ways and overhanging tree limbs on
Mhm.
our roadways.
Yeah.
And that was because of the fire problems that existed throughout the state, where the AT was closed and where we were living day to day in smoke because of the fires. And if you take out, I don't know, you take out a visitor center, you take out a pickleball court, you take out Doug Hollingsworth, you take out the photographer, you cut back on the trail, Mud Creek Trail. I was there 2 times in the last 2 weeks. It's not in bad shape relative to most of the trails around this particular city. So you could take that money and easily come up with $90,000 and hire a professional crew to come in and prioritize the streets that need to be dealt with as far as the overhanging issues on the roadways and the right-of-ways as a fire prevention thing.
Thank you.
And
Al, Jason, would you comment on the process right now that we've talked about in reference to the overhanging growth on our roads?
Madam Mayor, prior to my onboarding, the existing bucket truck, which the Public Works crew had, for lack of a better word, gave up the ghost. And there was a bucket truck that was purchased approximately a year ago, maybe a little bit over a year ago. That bucket truck was such that it required a CDL to drive. We did not have anybody on staff that had their CDL to do that. We identified an employee with the city that was interested in getting his CDL. We did send him to school for about 6 to 7 weeks at North Georgia. He recently got that, and I spoke with Jerry Shope, our Public Works Director, and they're hoping that the first part of November, now that we have somebody that's licensed to drive that truck, it's a large Freightliner that weighs over 26,000 pounds. They are going to start that hopefully first part of November. So that we are aware of the canopy and the tube-like atmosphere it creates. We know that that's past being done, but that's the reason why it has not been done. But that is on their program of work starting next month.
In addition, we have, as stated by Jason, we have 88,000 additional funds put into our road maintenance, which will take care of this issue.
Mayor Style, with
Yep.
all due respect, our Public Works crew is incapable of taking care of that problem. And everybody knows that. That's not a secret, not my thought. They are incapable of taking care of that, consistent with, first of all, they don't have the equipment to do that. And it would be cost prohibitive to get the equipment for something that would be likely once in every 10 years.
Well, I'm sure
And
that
the rest of
Jason will take that
Would
into
you let me,
consideration.
would you let me finish?
Yes.
Thank you. So if our crew is incapable, and again, I am going to assume that that is the case because it was the case back then when we tried to do that, and there's nothing that's changed. Why wouldn't we consider taking some of these funds that are going into niceties and put them into something that's a priority? And there's another point that's coming up again with this particular issue: transparency. If you're talking about this, it's not being talked about at regular council meetings. It's not being talked about at marketing committee meetings. It's not being talked about at mayoral advisory committees. You're not sharing information with the taxpayers, and you're not giving, actually, if you, I couldn't find it, but every one of the the council members has gone to the GMA school for newly elected officials. And in there, they talk about, whenever possible, to follow the spirit of the law. This council seems to be engaged in the letter of the law, including keeping people from speaking. Like, well, you can talk for 3 minutes, but no action will be taken. When you, Mayor Style and Councilor Morley, attended meetings when I was on the council, there was a pretty free flow of information. You asked questions and the council answered them. That hasn't been happening for almost 2 years. And I
Well,
think
Oh,
that
I have to correct you on that, because the mayor, when I wanted to speak at the council meetings, would not even let me speak. So don't go
That-
back to history here, but you need to go back and review all the committee meetings and the things that have been going on here for the last 6 months. We've had issues with COVID, it's complicated things, but this council and our new city manager has been communicating at all of these meetings on all of these issues. And Holly, I think, has been very patient in giving you all the time you want to talk about budget issues. So let's get back to budget issues.
I am getting back to budget issues, Councilor Morley. The council is prohibiting people from talking by engaging in Zoom consistently. And you mentioned COVID is a problem. And yet, some months ago, I pointed out to the council that Sky Valley was the only entity in Rabun County that did not have in-person meetings. The only one, not Rabun County, not Tiger.
Al, we have had many in-person meetings and also offered Zoom at the same time so that everybody could either make up their mind to be there in person or to participate on Zoom. The reason that we have gone to Zoom for the last couple meetings is that our entire city hall and all our employees have been affected and have been infected by COVID-19, and we did not want to take the chance to give this to any of our citizens. Of course, we are allowing everybody to talk at our meetings all the time. That is a misnomer, Al. I'm sorry you feel that way. And I agree with Ed. Are there any other budget issues at this point? Because we're already 8 minutes overdue here. Do you have anything else you need to talk about as far as budgets?
Our taxes have gone up, according to the Clayton Tribune, over 8%. And
Well, I computed mine and it was 6%, but that is due to our property assessments increasing.
Every 10 years.
I understand that, Mayor Style. I'm
Okay.
just saying that my taxes have gone up over 9%. And I know people that have gone up over 10%. So
You understand that is computed by the County Board of Assessors.
And Mayor, that's by law. That's by state law. That's not because the county wants to do it. State law requires that they assess your property at its actual value. And so it's not something they want to, it's something they have to do.
the taxes have gone up, and the council has made the decision, I believe, and you'll be voting on that shortly, to keep the millage rate at the millage rate that was set up last year or 2 years ago. It's a possibility that with our taxes going up, set by whomever, that you could cut the millage rate and then save money for our taxpayers. That's a suggestion. I'm sure you won't take it, but it's a suggestion. The Fall Fest, you've allocated money for next year for Fall Fest. Is there going to be, because I understand there might be an outside consultant brought in, is that true?
Bruce, would you like to answer that question since that falls under your auspice?
That is not true.
Okay. All right. Do we have, and I'm not familiar with this, Mr. Streetman, but in a budget, I was led to believe that there had to be a certain amount of money that was a contingency fund, a reserve fund, an emergency fund. Is that in this budget? And again, I don't know the answer. I'm searching for an answer. But I believe that the state requires that.
In this year's budget, in some of the departments, there were very small contingencies put in place. When I say small, $3,000, $5,000. In my experience over the years, if you put money aside for contingency, it always finds a way to get used. What I did with this budget for this year, instead of putting these little $3,000, $5,000 parachutes for the departments, I just reallocated that money where I felt best, and based on conversations with the department heads where they felt best it could be used. And they've just been given notice that is up to them to make sure they're good stewards of those funds. So, but there was some contingency, but very, very small amounts of money. Again, I think there was maybe $3,000 set aside in roads, maybe $3,000 in the police department. And that money's been used, particularly in roads, with increasing costs.
Okay, I believe you've got the audit coming up after this meeting, and that might be something you might want to ask about, is because I was led to believe, if I remember correctly, that cities should have at least a $200,000, for lack of a better term, contingency fund, not necessarily a line item stating that, but something.
Al, we do have reserve. I think Jason thought you were talking about contingencies. You want to talk about the reserve funds, Jason?
I'd have to look and see. I would have to look and
We
see
have a
where that's at,
significant,
but-
we have
but,
a
I mean,
significant reserve.
You know, I will say that every month I present the mayor and council with what the money that we have in the bank right now. And I would say that the city is very solvent right now as far as our general fund and as our combined utility fund. Both of them have both funds, I will say here on public record, they both have over $1 million in each account. So the city's in pretty good shape right now. However, expenses are going up, and we do try to budget our dollars wisely.
Well,
Al, I
okay.
might mention that our auditor had scheduling problems, so she will not be giving her report at the next meeting, but she will be at our November workshop to give her
That
report
should
in
be November 9th, Madam Mayor.
November 9th.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, one more thing, and then I'll leave. So, Ed West and Patty Calderon. Mr. Streetman, at the last meeting, you stated that Patty Calderon got a break in her rent due to COVID. Was that your decision?
No, sir, that was done before me, and I believe that was, I don't know if you can discuss, I don't know, Madam Mayor, if you know about that, but
That was done by our previous city manager with council approval.
Patty Calderon received a break in her rent because of COVID from a previous city council, and you were
No.
on the previous city council.
Correct.
So when was that done?
I don't know the month. I'll have to go back and look through last year's minutes, Al.
Well,
All right.
that-
And I will get that
Well,
answer back to you. I will get the answer back to you. We've really
well,
got to,
no,
get it going here.
Mayor Style, you told me last week that you were going to get things back to me. And as of right now, you have not gotten one thing back to me that you promised last week. So
well,
forgive
we
me.
answered your questions this morning, Al, in the meeting. What else did you want?
I want you to follow your word. Now,
I got back to
Going
you
back
and I
to-
did it I
Going
did
back
it. You
to-
wanted us to do it in a public setting. We
going back
responded
to-
to your questions in a public setting. That's what you wanted.
So you were the one that stated that Patty Calderon should have a decrease in her rent. Did she pay rent or did she have a decrease? Or was there no rent?
She paid rent and there was a decrease.
Okay, when Council President Oliver talked last November about extending the leases for West and Calderon, he stated that the current rent totaled $1,000 a month and that we were breaking even, was his term. And yet, breaking even, I'm not involved in big business like a lot of the members of council are, but I'm kind of curious as to what business is set up to break even. And yet, even when you're breaking even, you're going to go ahead and say, we're going to cut you a break because of COVID. And yet the taxpayers don't know that. In fact, breaking even is just the tip of the iceberg because there's common maintenance fees that weren't assessed to that group. So I'm kind of concerned about that, again, with the transparency issues, that things are going on in the back room and that taxpayers aren't aware of it.
That is
And-
not true, Al, and I'm sorry, but I do resent that accusation. We are very professionally minded, ethical people who are doing the best job we can to keep our citizens informed as to our workings. We have had more meetings and committee meetings than have been in several years, so I dispute that. And we're going to have to move on with the rent issue. That's not a we don't need to talk about that right now, and we'll get back to you about that. Any
Right.
other comments about
Actually, that's a
the
budget.
budget?
issue.
About
Actually,
the budget?
issue is a budget issue.
Madam Mayor, just for quick, I did some quick numbers here. It looks like originally it was $720 a month, and she was reduced to $460 a month.
And Mr. West was paying 400.
That's correct. And that's what it appears to be. Yes, $4,800 a year, $400 a month.
Okay. All right. I'm all set. Thank you very much, Mayor Style.
Yes, sir. Thank you for your comments. Anybody else quickly? Do we have any other comments or concerns in reference to the budget?
I would like to say that I believe you all have been very transparent. You've always had all the information out, and I have felt very comfortable the last 2 years with this mayor and city council as opposed to previous years. Thank you very much for your keeping us all informed.
Thank you, Miss Grace. Anybody else? I appreciate everybody showing up today. I love to see all the people at our meetings. And if you
I'd
have
like
any
to
other,
Speak
Excuse
if
me?
possible, Madam Mayor.
yes, Mr. Durbo,
How are you doing today?
I'm doing
Um,
great. Yourself?
Fine, thank you. I'll make mine as brief as possible. And basically in the tax issue and the millage rate, am I correct that last year this council raised the millage rate by approximately $500,000?
We did not. We kept the same millage rate.
How long has that millage rate been in? Because according to what I read in the paper last night from last year, went up, but
It did not. We kept the same.
2019.
I'm sorry,
2009.
Jason, go ahead and answer it.
2000, it's been the same since 2019,
Okay, good, thank you.
15.680.
All right, great. And I did some calculations last night. And just to give you some ideas here that, like my house alone, let's say my taxes are going to increase by 8.57%. I did 9 comparable properties throughout Sky Valley from one side to the other. And the record was an increase in 11.89%. And what I think the public is a little confused on is by keeping the millage rate the same as last year, and instead of reducing the millage rate, you're actually increasing their taxes across the board. I mean, we've got 9.2, 8.94, 8%, 7.43, and the grand winner was 3.41. So I'd really like I'd like everybody to know that, you know, although I appreciate you not raising the rate, you also are raising our taxes substantially. One other question, when might you start in-person meetings?
Hopefully as soon as our city hall and all our employees get back and are healthy.
Good, okay, thank you.
Chip, what I'd like to continue doing is we offer both, so people can have the choice of Zoom or coming in person. And our data after the last several meetings is that more people really like Zoom better than showing up, because we have hardly anybody showing up in person, but we will offer both. Thank you for asking that.
Oh, yeah, so, you know, I do believe both are very important. And, you know, because as one taxpayer wrote me, said, hey, you know, I don't know how to Zoom, so they can't join. And then the in-person option as well is a great idea. So I hope you'll consider that.
We
Well,
will.
Madam Mayor, can I
Yeah.
make a comment?
Sure.
On all the city council meetings I've attended, which is, I think, all but one, the ones that we had in person were poorly attended, one or two maybe. So I find it troubling that has been run up the flagpole against our city council, mayor, and city manager. I think it's an unfounded claim. We've made every effort to accommodate everybody. And in the in-person meetings have been, I mean, we've had some where there's no one there. So I take offense to that. That's all I had.
Thank you,
Bruce,
sir.
I am terribly sorry that you take offense to my asking you to consider to do both. I did not demand or anything else. I have no idea. Well, my question puts you on the defensive. There's something.
I'm not on the defenses. I'm just stating facts, just facts. We've
You
made
say
every
that.
attempt to make this available to everyone. And for some reason, there's folks out there that want to make this an issue when in fact, it has not.
I didn't make it an issue. I made it a question. Think about that.
Fair
You
enough.
agree with-
Okay.
Let's don't argue on it. Let's
You're
go.
getting-
Okay, y'all,
you're-
we've got to move on. Is there anything
Bruce,
else about the budget, Chip, you want to say?
All right, one last thing is I want you all, please, to keep in mind that you work for the taxpayers and property owners of Sky Valley, and those people only. You do not work for any other entity or government organization. And I thank you for the time, and y'all have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Chip. I think, Jason, we probably will need to close this down, and everybody who's attending, please know that Jason and the council, we are here to serve you, as Chip reminded us. And please contact us if you have any questions or concerns, and we will do our very best to answer it. And I appreciate you all showing up today. Jason.
I'll just say real quick, I know this meeting went long.
Yeah,
We're going to shut this meeting down. Give us just a minute to kind of regroup, get our thoughts in order. If you go ahead and log in, if you're on standby, as soon as we start that meeting, we will allow everybody in as quick as we can.
thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mayor.